Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Series 6, which is commonly known as the series with pets, or Series 666, because it's 6 dolls and 6 pets, and it's the 6th series. So let's get into it. First, before we start the video, I wanted to share a really interesting source of information that I have for my research in talking about today's series and series 7 for my next video. And it's this wonderful tour book. It's called 5 Years of Digging Graves tour book. And this features photos of the guys with their fans as they go through the country in various conventions for a span of 5 years. And this book has great insight about the creation process of making the series. And Series 6 was featured in this book, which a lot of my information, especially from information that might not be available online, will be from this book. So, okay, without further ado, let's get into the dolls. So, Series 6 featured a lot of firsts, just like Series 5, in terms of the introduction of the variants and non-drawn chipboards. Series 6 continues to change the formula for Living Dead dolls. The first major departure is the fact that there's 6 dolls in this series. So I'm going to start with the dolls that broke the mold, so to speak, or the tradition of the previous doll series. And we're going to start with Revenant. Now, Revenant is the first glow-in-the-dark doll that they made. Now, previous dolls before her had glow-in-the-dark features, but it was only the eyes, such as Died in Doom, for example, had glow-in-the-dark eyes. And Sinister Minister and Bad Habit had glow-in-the-dark eyes. But this is the first doll that fully is glow-in-the-dark from head to toe. She is beautiful in the glow-in-the-dark mode, so here's a picture of that. And she's really cool, especially glow-in-the-dark. Now again, just like I've mentioned the previous 5 series, she has limited articulation, so her neck is fixed down. She comes in this tattered, stained dress. Lovely white hair, by the way. And she comes with her pet, whose name is Carrion, and it's a vulture. It's a hard plastic. They don't move. There's no articulation. And Revenant, her death date is really just a play on, the 3 6s in a row. She's a ghost. And she's relatively inexpensive. I pretty much got her for free because I bought her with a couple of other dolls. So I pretty much got her for free. And she retails about $35, $45. But you could definitely find her cheap. And with Series 6, there's no difference in the death certificates. It's back to the traditional look of Series 1 through 4. So that hasn't changed. And that's it for Revenant. Next doll is Isaac. Now, Isaac is the second major change into the Living Dead dolls formula, in that he is an entirely different body type of a doll. So he is not the all 10-inch vinyl plastic doll as the other dolls behind him are. He's the first and only doll that is stuffed. So his body is very much like a rag doll's body. He's just so cool. I feel like he's one of the most underrated dolls in the entire Living Dead doll series, and also in Series 6. He comes with his crow, which is just called Ole Crow. That's OLE crow. Now, the interesting thing with his crow is that I actually thought for a long time it was the same bird that was used for Edgar Allan Poe, but it's not. This is Edgar Allan Poe's raven. Very different. This one actually looks more natural, more realistic than this one. Okay. Now, he doesn't have a death date because he's a scarecrow, so technically he didn't die. And he actually has a interesting backstory. So the guys, when they wanted to do a scarecrow, they realized they couldn't do a scarecrow in the form that they traditionally do. So they decide to experiment and come up with this ragdoll body. And he has this faux hay coming out of his sleeves and a little bit in his neck. You hear that? Okay, he has it in his hat. I'm not going to take off his hat. I've never have. I believe he's a bald doll underneath. And another challenge they had with Isaac was the arms. So a scarecrow traditionally has arms like this, and they realized they couldn't do that, so they had to make his arms come down to his sides. He also has a new mold for hands, which they're really gnarly. One hand is actually bigger than the other. Okay, and they have 6. Hold on, 1, 2. So one hand has 6 fingers on it. This one has 5. Really cool doll. Close of his face. So displaying him, you definitely need a doll stand for him. The guys also mentioned that they wanted him to come with a cross so you can display him, but because of time and cost constraints, they couldn't do it. So unfortunately, he didn't come with that. And I don't think you need it. I mean, I guess you could get creative and make your own cross, but, you know, like I said, he poses very nicely on a doll stand. And he's just a really cool doll. I actually thought he should have been used for the Oz line, but I understand why they didn't. And his name refers to a character from the movie The Children of the Corn, which is based on the Stephen King novel. The child was named Isaac. And that's about it. And he runs very inexpensive. I paid $20 for him, mint in box. You could still get him for around $30 to $40. And he's very light in the coffin too because of his body type. So just keep that in mind. You're not missing anything. I mean he'll have his crow, which is what you should feel, but compared to the girls, he's very light in his packaging. And that's it. And that is Isaac. So another major departure is that the guys came up with a variant, intentional variant to be within the series. So with Series 5, they had the black and white variant, which is a whole separate set of dolls. Here, the reason why there are 2 Dottie Roses is because the guys saw the prototypes of Dottie Rose, one with eyebrows and one without, and they thought she looked really cool in both of the prototypes, so they decided to let fans decide which one they prefer. So there's a 50-50 production run of Dottie Rose of the eyebrows or without eyebrows. And speaking of the production run, unfortunately, I could not find the production run. I'm assuming it's along the same amount of dolls as the previous series, maybe 1,000 less or 1,000 more, give or take. So I'm not really sure the definitive number, but in terms of Dottie Rose with or without eyebrows, you should be able to easily find her, no matter which version you prefer. So she has these bumps on her face, which are like, they're blisters and they're actually raised so you can feel them. Okay. And they're ever so slight. And personally, I don't know which one I prefer. I think I lean towards the eyebrows, personally. And you can actually feel them. Now, the reason why she has blisters is because she actually suffers from a condition known as, hold on, let me just get the correct pronunciation. It's porphyria, which causes skins to blister when they're exposed to the sun. And so that's why she has these blisters. She comes with this adorable poodle named Hun. Probably the coolest poodle you'll ever see. And here's a close-up of the poodle. Again, the poodle doesn't rotate. The head doesn't rotate. It's very stationary. And she comes with painted fingernails, pink, and toenails. Really cute. Now, the interesting thing with Dottie Rose, her death certificate, her death date is, so her death date clashes with what she's wearing. So she has a 50s aesthetic style. Like she has what looks like a 50s sundress. And her date of death, or her year, is 1904. And her resurrection, which is hands down one of my favorite resurrections of all the Living Dead dolls, resurrection dolls. And can't wait to talk about that doll later. And her resurrection leans into the 50s aesthetic, which is very curious. And that's the thing overall with these dolls for Series 6. Unlike the other series, these death dates don't really correspond or mean anything. I've looked, with the exception of one of them. One of them actually has a legit relevant death date, and I'll get to her in a moment. So yeah, so like I said, you can get her non-eyebrow version, and this one right here. Now, the curious thing with the non-eyebrow, and I did consult with the page, and the reason why it's odd is because this one has more bruising on the face, and it's more prominent. Like, you actually see the color of the scarring of the bumps, and it's pink. Now, this is how I bought her. She was in coffin. She was, I believe she was tied down, and I mean, it adds to a cool look to her, and the fact that she's very distinct from the one with the eyebrows. But the eyebrow one might have the same thing, but according to a fan, a fellow collector, he said that the ones without the eyebrows tend to have a more prominent sunburn. And then there's others who said no, they're about the same. So if you do get her, don't be alarmed if either one has these prominent bruisings. It's part of the mold. And the interesting thing about the two dolls, her neck is a little longer than the other one. Very short. I'm not sure why that is. Again, you can't move their necks, or you can't move their heads. It's stationary. But I just thought it was really curious that, her neck is a little more exposed than this one. And she comes with the same poodle. And like I said, you could get them equally without difficulty. I paid for Dottie Rose. So with the eyebrows, I paid $34. I believe she was sealed, that one. And the one without, I paid $38. And you can get her for about $35 to $45. And Dottie Rose is one of those dolls within this series that fans love buying two, because they want one without the eyebrows and one without, one with the eyebrows, one without. So you have to buy the two. But, I mean, that's just me and a lot of fans. But if you just get one or the other, you still have a complete set. But a real complete set has both of them. And that is Dottie Rose. Now, the next doll, she's actually one of my favorites in the series. And that is Hush. There's just something about her that is just so pretty. Very unique look, especially her face. She has very similar veining to Revenant. And she has yarn hair, which is really nice. It feels really nice. And the dress is unique too, with the little ribbons. Her resurrection is also top-notch, both the regular and the variant. And I can't wait to talk about that resurrection, which she is in the same series as Dottie Rose. So she comes with this rat named Shriek. Now, the interesting thing with the rat is that initially the guys, when planning Series 6, they were thinking of having Nosferatu as part of this series. And that's why Nosferatu had a rat. This is Nosferatu's rat. The Nosferatu doll and victim set, which I did do a video. Highly recommend checking it out. And it's the same rat, just different paint. And so they realized that Nosferatu was better off his own release, his own thing. So he became part of the Presents line. And so that narrowed down the dolls that were in this particular series. Now, Hush, like I said, she's the only one of Series 6 that her death date is actually of relevance. Her death date is the same death date as Roy Disney, brother of Walt, who also was the co-founder of the Disney company. And that's about it with that. But again, it's weird how none of the dates, with the exception of her, have anything to do with the dolls, doesn't have anything to do with the clothes they're wearing. It's really curious. I feel like the guys, you know, I feel like the pet concept is what they were focused on, and I guess because the death certificates were part of the thing, I think they just, I don't know, picked random numbers and years for the dolls. And for her, I paid $34 for her, and I believe she was sealed. And she goes for $35 to $45. So this series, as you've noticed, not really expensive to get these on the secondary market. I wouldn't pay 3 figures. Please don't do that. You can still buy them today for relatively cheap. And that's it. That's all I have to say about Hush and her pet rat Shriek. Now, she is my favorite of the series, and that is Jinx. Now, the guys mentioned that Jinx was actually a character that's been around since Series 4, and they reworked her to fit Series 6. Now, Jinx is, how would I say this? So, moving forward with Living Dead dolls, there's always the overtly cute doll in the series. And that's another tradition Series 6 started. You couldn't say that for Series 5, because none of them were cutesy. But moving forward, many of the series did have the solo cute doll. Yes, there's creepy cute, which is Hush. She's considered creepy cute, and you could say Dottie Rose without the eyebrows or with the eyebrows. She actually looks menacing with the eyebrows, but she was purposely the cute one, and she is adorable. So basically, she's the black cat, so unlucky, black cat crossed the ladder and such. So she comes with this cute cat called Hellcat, and he gets repurposed as an as an accessory to Resurrection Sin. Makes no sense whatsoever. So the Hellcat in Resurrection Sin takes the place of her pitchfork. Makes no sense whatsoever. So it's exactly the same cat, just painted red. And he's stationary, really cute. And she actually was the very first doll I bought from Series 6. And I had her, just her, from Series 6 for many years. I paid a little more for her in comparison to the others. I paid, I want to say, $45 I paid for her. And she runs a little bit more because she is the de facto cute one. So she goes for $50 to $60. So she is slightly more popular, and so she'll be a little bit more expensive. She has really cool eyes, which is completely different from Sin. Not Sin, excuse me, Inferno. I actually thought her and Inferno had the same eyes, but they don't. She has this cute little headband, which is fastened on her with a rubber band. Just be careful. Again, as I mentioned before, anytime they have like elasticity accessories, they tend to stretch a little bit. And she's just so cute. I mean, look at that little tail. The tail's attached to her skirt. And like, she's just the perfect Halloween doll as well. I just love her. She's so cute. And her death date basically just adds up to 13. So her death date of June 7th is just 13. And her year that she died, 1913, again, doesn't match with the way she's dressed. So they played into the black cat bad luck theme, which they do revisit later in Series 13 with a character named Simone, which I actually never thought of that until doing research and reading about the dolls. I forgot that they did this again in Series 13. And that is Jinx. Last but certainly not least, the most overrated doll in this series, Calico. Now, Calico is an interesting doll. She at first reminds fans of Bride of Valentine, who was stitched together very much like Frankenstein's monster. For me, she gives off Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. And she also reminds me, so part of the Wizard of Oz series of books, there was a character called the Patchwork Girl. I think she had a real name. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the book is called The Patchwork Girl of Oz, and she becomes the love interest of the Scarecrow. I never read that book. It's on my list to read in terms of reading the original Wizard of Oz books. She wears this pleather red dress, which unfortunately, right up close, you could see it's starting to peel. Now, of all the pleather outfits, like, hers is the worst in terms of the material. If you handle her too much, if you pull the dress, which tends to slip down, it starts peeling. Like, if you pull it, it starts peeling, and that's what's happening. And, like I said, it will eventually happen, and hers is just the worst for it, and it's more noticeable than if something that was black, like the Queen of Hearts from the Wonderland series. She has these shoes, and her toes are painted. I would love to show you her body, but the pattern, the coloring right here continues onto her legs. I just don't want to touch her dress. She also has yarned hair very much like Hush. but it's different on her head. It's the way it lays is much different than Hush's. Let me show you real quick with Hush. See, like they actually made a style of hair, so it seems like it's glued, and then she has these locks, like it looks more like locks on her hair, which I thought was interesting. And what makes Calico really cool, I think she has the best pet of all of Series 6, and that's her pet Muzzy, which is a combination of various animals, and the detail to this pet is amazing. And it's worth hands down the price for this doll. And in terms of buying the doll, like I think she's worth having in your collection. She's just such a funky, cool looking doll. And Muzzy, take a closer look. The detail and time they took to make these individual parts of this pet is cool. Like look at the ears. See how it has like a little rabbit ear there? This might be a dog's ear. Like, look at that. Isn't that cool? And I just love that he's this bird-billed beast that looks like he will just bite your hand off. And like look at the feet. Like he even has different feet. Like here's like a rabbit's hind leg, and this I think this is like a little cat. I'll make sure I get that. Like a cat. But look at that. And it's just so cool. And look, he has like a taloned hand. And this one, oh, it's a lizard. Yes, it's a lizard hand. Look at lizard foot. Excuse me, lizard foot. And he's just so cool. My husband loved Calico. He actually bought her based on the pet. He just thought the pet was just so cool. And she's a really cool doll. I highly recommend getting her. My husband paid $28 for her, and that's with the shipping. And she is also relatively inexpensive, about the same as Isaac. She goes for like $30 to $40. And just to warn you, remember, these dolls are very old. They were released in November of 2003, so that's 23 years ago. So the material, the dress may be deteriorating, even if you buy her mint in box. Again, it does depend on the condition the collector kept their doll. And despite, my room, which I have a dehumidifier and it gets very cold, when you handle her, the dress starts peeling. So I try not to touch her too much. So that's why I'm not holding her closer, because I don't want to further ruin her dress. But just be aware it will happen. And more notes on the series. So the guys actually had fans ask them to make pets for Living Dead dolls, as in separate, like from the dolls, and they decided to make a series with the pets. And they had the idea after Series 6 of making, or they thought they could make the pets as plushes, and they ended up scrapping the idea because they didn't think the plushes would translate well. I mean, the characters would translate well to plush, and I think that's a good call. And that's about it of all I have to say about Series 6. It's a fascinating series. It really is unique in that it's the first time they actually did a little gimmick thing, which is the pets. And the fact that a doll has a pet, or the fact that they came up with a series that have pets, it's probably the only time Living Dead dolls actually did something that the regular commercial dolls did, because there was many doll series that had pets around the time. Like Barbie always had a pet, or a pet series of sorts. And in 2010, Monster High, when Monster High was released, they too came with pets as well. So that was kind of a gimmicky thing that a lot of doll companies were doing. And it is funny that they followed that trend, and that's probably the only time they followed a trend like that. So that's basically it for Series 6. They are a wonderful series of dolls. The guys believe that they took a lot of chances and they felt some dolls worked and some dolls didn't. Not sure which ones they thought worked, that didn't work. I think overall they're a really cool collection of dolls. My guess, maybe Calico and Isaac, maybe, but who knows? They didn't mention which dolls they thought didn't work. I think it's a great direction, that they took risk and experimented with the doll line, and they realized, that they were not limited to the 10-inch dolls. That if they want different textures for the hair, they can do it. If they want to do a different mold, they can do it. And I appreciate this series for that. And stay tuned for my next video. I'm going to take a break from the series and actually do the first Resurrection series. So stay tuned for that. Do your research. Make sure you look at the pictures when shopping for the dolls. Just one note with Revenant. Now, her dress has like staining on it, so just be aware that's part of the doll's design. And also the dress stains her body, just FYI, because it's a black dress, so she will have stains. And that's it. So stay tuned, and as always, happy hunting.